Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome, and it's lovely that you joined us on your Monday lunch times as usual. Well, for the every 2 weeks. So yeah, it's great to have you guys on for today for this exciting session. And we'll be discussing keeping it on brand, how to use AI without losing your voice. So this will be hosted by our host, Robin, today. Um, and it's part of our OXP AI Exchange series. So this is what we have for every 2 weeks, in case you weren't aware. I'm delighted to introduce the webinar. My name's Daniela. I'm part of the Oxford Professional Education, or I work for the colleges. So that would be for marketing, management, procurement, as well as technology. Yeah, we're here to support you. But otherwise, you're more than welcome to make today's session as interactive as possible. So that means feel free to drop questions in the chat throughout, and then we can ask Robin as we kind of go. But yeah, Robin's aim essentially is to keep things clear, useful, and jargon-free. So if you're curious, cautious, or experimenting with AI, she'll leave you with some practical insights that you can use. But yeah, are you ready to get started, Robin?
Yes, absolutely. And I am wishing you all a cooler room. That's what I will start today with. But I think we have all seen the LinkedIn posts that sound like everybody else, the rocket emojis, the very obvious templatation of things that come out of ChatGPT. And a lot of the individuals that we see on our feeds, they're just copying, pasting, and using that kind of AI generated content. It is possible to use generative AI to retain your brand voice and help you to create content quicker, faster, more on the fly, more reactive, and actually use this tool to truly and capture who you are, what you do, and kind of why you're creating content in the first place. So that is what we're going to look at today. How do we keep AI use on brand? How do we use AI without losing our voice? We're going to cover brand versus bot. We're going to look at the 5 biggest risks to brand voice. We're going to learn how to prompt like a pro, and we're going to look at real world examples of companies keeping their voice while using generative AI. Together, we're actually going to build a brand voice brief for AI that you can use with any generative AI platform. A lot of people use ChatGPT, and I may reference ChatGPT, but this will work with any generative kind of platform or AI tool that you have access to. And we're going to look at why governance is really important. But generative AI is everywhere. This is not the niche experiment that it started out as. It is now a mainstream tool. My mum has access to ChatGPT, right? And in fact, according to a very recent study by McKinsey, over 60% of organizations are already using generative AI in at least one business function. To put that into context, that is one of the fastest uptakes of a tool, an accessible tool within technology for a very long time since the internet, since the creation of the internet and the accessibility of the internet. So from content creation to campaign planning, brands are using tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all these wonderful names of these like new team members that we have within our organizations. And it's easy to see why we have adopted this tool incredibly quickly. Do we need a beginning of a blog post? Do we need a social headline? Do we need a product description? Do we need SEO enhancement for our blogs? AI can support us to do that incredibly quickly. But with all that speed comes 2 big challenges. If AI is doing more of the writing, how do you make sure your brand doesn't start to sound like everyone else? And also, do we truly understand how this technology actually generates that piece of content, that output that we are looking at? Yeah. So I'm going to cover 2 kind of foundational things now before we move forward. And the first one is what actually is your brand voice? Now, you'll hear various different terminology for this. This could be your your tone of voice, your brand voice. It can be part of your branding package. It can even be looped into your vision, mission, and culture. It's the distinct personality and tone that your brand uses when you communicate. That could be in ads, social media, website copy, emails, chatbot replies. Anywhere your brand is present, this is what that kind of message comes from, the personality behind that messaging. If your brand was a person, this is how it would sound. Yeah. Are you confident? Are you witty? Are you warm? Are you helpful? Are you straightforward and professional? And when we're creating a brand voice, especially for AI, we need to understand our tone. Are we bold? Are we empathetic? What is our language style? Are we formal? Are we jargon heavy? Are we tech nerds? Yeah. What is that language style we want to always communicate in? What are our values? What is our world view? What do we stand for? And how do we express that? And the reason we have this consistency is that a brand voice, a strong brand voice, builds recognition and trust, helps your brand stand out in a crowded market, and it also creates consistency across every touch point, even when many people or tools, as we now know, are creating content in this wonderfully saturated digital world that we all try and be seen in. So our brand voice is all of that information. It is that way that we want to be perceived, understood, and recognized at the end of the day. And in a world where now technology, generative AI is writing more of the message, is creating more of the content, protecting and guiding that brand voice is more important than ever. And I think branding as a whole is going to become more detailed, because not only are we having to make sure we understand who we truly are and how we want to communicate as brands, we also definitely need to be able to communicate it to the tools that we work with, and also the kind of various members of our teams, whether that be your marketing department or, as we discussed in our last session, the AI agents that you can actually integrate into your team and be completing tasks for you. So that is the brand voice. It is that distinct personality and tone that your brand uses when it communicates. Yeah. And what we're going to do today is we're going to create a version of that for AI, so that when you are using generative AI platforms, tools, ChatGPT, whatever that looks like in your workflow, it knows how to replicate that. Yeah. I do need to kind of discuss one thing though, and that is I'm going to go through in the next kind of slide how generative AI actually works. And when you start to recognize how it actually works, you start to realize how important your input is to this tool. I will sing the praises of AI left, right, and center. You will hear me on the highest rooftop saying how wonderful this technology is, but it is not a replacement for experience or expertise due to the way it understands the world. So we need to add that part to this. And what is happening is people is using AI without this understanding of the technology and the understanding of how to actually use the technology to get a good output. Yeah, because I promise you, you can. So AI does pose a real risk to brand voice. Yeah. Even though we have this incredible potential, faster production, endless variations, scaling content like never before, Alongside these benefits comes a serious risk, and that is the erosion of that brand voice. And there are 5 key reasons that actually happens due to this technology. Yeah, when we're talking about the erosion of brand voice here, we're talking about AI's impact on that. There's loads of other determining factors that could erode your brand voice, but this is the kind of lens we're working through today. And that first one is the homogenization and the loss of uniqueness. So generative AI tools are trained on massive data sets made up of existing content from across various kind of data points, such as the internet. While that helps AI to sound fluent, to sound natural, it also means it often pulls from the same shared pool of language that everybody else is using. As more brands rely on these tools without customizing or guiding them, the messages start to blend together. What made them truly distinctive, memorable, or emotionally resonant starts to get lost because they are just asking in a very basic way this tool to pull the most obvious answer. And over time, this kind of homogenization can weaken brand equity and make it really hard for us as consumers from the other side of the coin that we work within to tell brands apart, undermining the very identity we as marketers have spent hours turmoiling over. Yeah, we've worked hard to build this uniqueness. The next issue is inconsistency and credibility gaps. One of the most underrated strengths of a well-defined voice is consistency across channels, campaigns, and creators. Yeah. We know that people like to understand what is going on. And when AI, like generative AI tools, are used without proper controls or human oversight, tone and messaging can wildly fluctuate depending on the prompt, the platform, or the context, or even where it is going out, where the AI system is pumping that message out to. This inconsistency can confuse audiences and chip away at your credibility. A brand that sounds bold and playful in an Instagram caption, but stiff and robotic in a customer email, makes a very jarring experience. And over time, these mismatches erode consumer trust and make it harder for people to understand what the brand really stands for. So for example, if you're on ChatGPT and you're like, make me a LinkedIn post that shows that I am the best marketer and you should definitely work with me, because I'm not giving it any more than that specific kind of request, it's going into its kind of bank of knowledge, pulling the most probable answer out to me and kind of limiting me to what it believes is a good LinkedIn post, right? And because of that, that is why we're seeing all of this same hyper inflated, really bizarre language on LinkedIn. And it is purely because people aren't giving it what it needs to give a good answer out the other end. There are also ethical and transparency concerns. So as AI generated content becomes more widespread, so do concerns around authenticity and transparency. So consumers begin to suspect that a brand is outsourcing its voice to machines, especially in your marketing or your storytelling. They may question how genuine that message really is. There's a growing expectation for brands to be honest about how content is created. Using AI without acknowledging it or failing to add a human touch can create skepticism and even backlash. If anybody here, you don't have to tell me, but if anyone here uses AI for their LinkedIn content, do you have a little disclaimer at the bottom that says written by AI? I don't think so. But realistically, we can tell. We can tell if you are not then iterating and using that output in a great way. So we all know when people are using AI content, right, online. We have an over-reliance and a strategic blind spot issue, which is a risk of AI use when looking at brand voice. So AI can generate ideas, copy, and variations, but it does not understand nuance, context, or shifting human sentiment the way we do. Brands that lean too heavily on AI risk missing subtle shifts in tone, culture, or emotion that are critical to staying relevant and resonant. Yeah. AI won't instinctively understand your brand's values. It doesn't even instinctively understand Apple's or Nike's, even if it's like, write me a post like Nike. Like it doesn't truly get it. And that's why we need to tell it. That's why we need to create this extra information to give it that foundational knowledge. Without clear human guidance, things can be created that are technically correct, but strategically tone deaf, for example. So we need to ensure that we don't have these blind spots in the content that is created. And of course, we have a fear and a risk of kind of loss of human connection. A brand voice creates emotional kind of connection. It sounds like someone you know, you trust, you can connect with. While AI can help scale production, it can't replicate the insight, the empathy, or the cultural awareness of a creative human team. So, generative AI is our ally, but it is not our substitute for human creativity, judgment, or emotional intelligence. So, we need to protect our brand voice. So, we need a thoughtful, strategic approach that blends the best of both worlds. So, AI powered scale with human powered soul. Yeah. Or else your AI content will never actually truly drive the response that you need it to. So you may be wondering, Robin, I get it. Like, I get it. Like, I understand that that's why we're doing it and the issues, but I don't actually understand how generative AI creates the answer. And I always think it's important to truly understand the technology that we're interacting with. If I asked you before we go through these next 7-ish slides, how does ChatGPT create you an answer? Would you be able to let me know in a very simple, easy to explain way? No? And that's okay. It's like often we don't take the time to understand these technologies, but as soon as I explain this to you, you'd be like, okay, I need to be better at using this to get a better outcome. And that is the whole point of this webinar. So generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence designed not just to analyze or organize information, but to create something new. Now, when I say the term new, I'm going to have to put asterisks here, because when it creates, it is taking the data it has access to and what you have asked it and combining the two. That is what it classes as new. Yeah. So this could be a paragraph of text, a digital image, a piece of music, a voiceover script, a block of code, even a video or 3D design. When we're talking about generative, it generates, yeah? And that's what we're focusing on today. And tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Dolly, Suno, these are all examples of generative AI systems. You give them a prompt, like a question, instruction, or idea, and they generate you something that didn't, in that format, exist before. But the ideas and the data it's pulled from is not new. Yeah, just you need to be aware of that limitation. So how does it actually work? So I'm going to go through the main steps of how it actually generates you a new idea. They are powered by large language models, our LLMs, these generative AI systems like ChatGPT. These models generate by predicting the next token. A token is roughly a word or part of a word, yeah, based on a sequence of previous tokens, words or part of words, using probability distributions learned during training. It's okay if you're sitting there blinking at me. I'm going to go further into this, yeah? So the first thing that happens is tokenization. We're breaking down that input. It is trying to understand what we want from it. So when we type a prompt, write a summary of how do computers work, like write a summary of how a computer works, the model doesn't actually read it like that. Yeah, that's how we talk to it. What it then needs to do is it tokenizes that input. It breaks it down into small units called tokens. So for example, write a summary becomes write a summary. So we have 3 tokens, yeah? These tokens are then mapped to numbers using a vocabulary the model understands. So basically at this point, it is trying to truly recognize what I have asked it, but it can't understand write a summary. It has to take the sections of that prompt using tokenization to turn it into a language that it understands so it can go away and do its job. Yeah. So that is what it begins with. It doesn't read it as write a summary, which a lot of people may not realize really. So then what happens is it converts those tokens into vectors. So each token is converted into a vector. Now, a vector is a list of numbers, and it does this by a layer of technology in the model. Yeah, so that tokenization passes through that piece of technology, and then it gets a numeric representation of what we have asked it for. And then it is like, I understand. I know what I'm looking for now. Yeah, it can't do anything until it has done that. And it captures the information about the token. And this, to give you kind of more context here, similar words have similar vector representations. So and will always have the same vector representation. So once it's done that, once it's kind of converted the small parts of the prompt into tokens and then into vectors, what it then starts to do is try and get a contextual understanding of what is actually going on. So that input is then fed into a transformer, the core architect behind models like GPT. Because if you didn't know, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Yeah. So then we've got this language we now understand, and then it goes into the transformer. So the transformer can actually start doing the generating bit. And it's got multiple layers of networks within this. So it can pass information very quickly to try and get information back and then reform your answer. So self-attention helps the model understand relationships between the words in a sentence, regardless of their position. It's almost how it understands grammar and relevance, if that helps you to kind of visualize what's going on in this step. So, for example, in the sentence, the dog chased the cat because it was hungry, self-attention helps the model figure out that it likely refers to the dog. Yeah, or else that it wouldn't have any relevance within the prompt. And the transformer processes all the tokens at once, allowing it to build context by weighing how important each word is to every other word in the sentence. So you can already start to see that we need to be clear. We need to give it relevance, because at this point, it is deciding how to answer. It is taking all of those aspects of our prompt and actually weighing up how important various bits of it are in your final prompt. So we're doing the research at this point, yeah? So what happens then is we actually have an output prediction. This is the language modeling task. Once the model has built an internal representation of the input, it starts generating an output, one token at a time. At each step, the model predicts the most likely next token by computing a probability distribution over the entire vocabulary. This could be a lot of tokens. This is what you pay for within the kind of AI exchanges. So let me try and explain this to you by giving you a rundown of here. So the prompt would be, the French Revolution began in. Yeah, so the prompt we're probably asking about here is, when did the French Revolution begin? So then it has tokenized and taken that, and the model is now predicting what it is actually going to give us back. So the French Revolution began in, and then the model starts to predict what the most likely answer should be. Most likely answer should be. So 1789, that's got a high percentage. Paris, kind of true, but maybe realistically, within this kind of context, a year makes more sense. It could be the goes next, but actually we don't need the, yeah, and so on. It then samples or selects the highest probability token, depending on this strategy it has, and adds it to the sequence. This process repeats itself over and over again, each time using the updated sequence. So it would be, the French Revolution began in, the French Revolution began in, and then the next edition, until your maximum token limit is reached. And then a stop condition is triggered. So the end of the sentence token then happens. So as you can see, if we're not being clear on what we give these systems, we're going to get an output that everybody else has got, because the probability is that without any more context, that is the most probable answer for this system to give us. That is how it decides how to create, how to generate, and how to give you a response to your output. Yeah. So if we're putting in something as basic as create me a LinkedIn post on why you should work with a marketer, okay, it's going to, probability-wise, give me the most obvious answer or output like everybody else's. So that is why we see this same kind of content. It's because the prompting isn't particularly great. And then we have a decoding strategy. So this is how it chooses what it's going to say. So there are different strategies to determine which token to select at each step. So we have something called greedy decoding. So it always picks the token with the highest probability, which is generally the way that most maximum AI systems work, like ChatGPT, Claude. They will do greedy decoding. They won't think further than, yeah, that's the highest probability. There's your answer. Yeah. Can be very repetitive in the outputs there. We have something called top K sampling, and this randomly chooses from the top K most likely tokens. This is where it adds variability, and you can actually ask like ChatGPT to do that if you wanted to, so you don't always get the top one. So it gives you some chance at being slightly different. Top P sampling, so this is chooses from the smallest set of tokens whose cumulative probability exceeds P, which is balance, quality, and diversity. And also something called beam search, and this considers multiple paths in parallel. You don't really need to know that, like, all of these things, but I'm telling you these because a lot of the systems we interact with use greedy decoding. They always pick the token with the highest probability. That's why things sound the same when we ask basic things. Yeah. So then what happens is we have this fine tuning. So after initial pre-training, models may undergo fine tuning or instructions on specific tasks. And then they often get this kind of further reinforcement. If you're not kind of technical, what that means is once so many kind of prompts go through this kind of system, it then checks back how correct it was. If people aren't asking for iterations, great, it's on the right track. Its probability matrix is correct. If people are constantly going, no, this is not correct, no, this is not right, there's something off. So then it starts to retune and rebalance. Happens all the time within these systems. So there are limitations, as you can see, in how it creates answers. Yeah. While it can sound intelligent, it is important to remember it has no understanding of facts or concepts. Yeah, it is only predicting a pattern. It is probability wise, this matrix kind of deciding what goes next in line with what has gone before, what information it has access to. It does not know truth. It knows what usually comes next. It can also hallucinate. Yeah, it can generate fluent but false or made up content. And this is why you should always be checking your AI stuff, because it may sound great because statistically, probability wise, it does look good. It makes sense, kind of, potentially. But there may be some aspect that is incorrect or needs updating. So as a very quick summary flow, we have input text, tokenization, embedding, where it converts it into a language it understands, transformation layers, probability distribution, and then it does the next kind of token, and then repeat. Yeah. So that is how these wonderful systems that we have access to, that we are giving power to, we are giving our data to, this is how it creates an output. And it's not as clever as you may have thought. It is a probability matrix through tokenization. Once it understands what you want and the context that you want it, it goes back into its data banks, and then it pulls the most probable piece of content forward. Yeah. So who is doing it really, really kind of well? Who has used generative AI to truly connect? Yeah. And these are some campaigns that you can go away and have a look at. They use both word and visuals within these generative campaigns. So we have Heinz. They utilize OpenAI's DALL-E and also ChatGPT to create a series of ketchup-inspired images and content, demonstrating the brand's iconic elements through AI-generated visuals and wording. It really positioned their signature brand very well. Also showcase the creative potential of generative AI in advertising. And then we have the WWF. This was a very beautifully sad campaign. So it's part and parcel with Creative Community, launched a campaign called World Without Nature. And this initiative encourages companies to remove wildlife from their branding to raise awareness about biodiversity loss. And that was created through generative AI. Cybercom Group, a tech consulting firm. Got too excited. I was trying to speak too quickly. From Sweden, worked with data scientist Antti Hatto to make a special video by providing the AI with many Cybercon videos. And this was where we got a perspective on Cybercon as seen through the AI's viewpoint. It was really cool. I highly recommend you go and have a look at that one. And then also Virgin Voyages has innovatively used generative AI by introducing Gen AI, an AI program featuring the likeness of Jennifer Lopez. And it invites people to go on a cruise, blending celebrity influence with our advanced technology to create a compelling marketing campaign. So they are some kind of things you can go away and straight away have a look at of normally I talk about companies doing it badly. So today I thought I'd talk about something really positive. They are four that have had really great impacts for those brands. So how do we know as humans, when we're looking at a feed, that content was written by AI? And this is actually a phenomenon that happens because we are kind of wired to pick up on things that aren't quite right. And psychologically, these kind of things that I'm going to talk to you about, it starts alarm bells in our consumers. Yeah. So the first thing is, when we read something that is weirdly perfect, we start to feel off about it. So every paragraph has exactly 3 sentences. The pacing is smooth, too smooth. It reads like a robot trying to sound like a human. The person writing it may have gone, okay, make this sound more human, and it still feels quite off, and it's missing that natural rhythm of real thought. Yeah. So when we start to see that, we're like, oh, no thanks. And consumers start to go, oh, that brand's definitely using AI. Get it away. The structure is painfully predictable. Intro, 3 points, call to action, problem, solution, takeaway. It's using the kind of the jab, jab, right hook kind of rule, because that's what everyone says you should do on social media. So the probability is that we're going to use that one. Yeah. The inspiration is vague and empty. We're turning challenges into opportunities. We're working smarter. We're not working harder. Those kind of very cliche things. The transitions are too obvious, first and foremost. Furthermore, last but not least, yeah, they sound like essay assignments, not real conversation. And when writing flows like a checklist, you can bet it came from a prompt, yeah? It begs for engagement, but badly. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. Oh, yeah, we know we need a CTA. Well, let's stick one on. And often the emotion is dialed up way too high. Absolutely thrilled, so incredibly honored. Over the top language is often a sign that the prompt was bland and needed more information. Real emotion is quieter and more believable. So psychologically, if we're using like generative AI without these kind of really powerful kind of brand tone of voice that we're going to create in a couple of slides, then you're going to get this kind of disconnect with your consumers, because we notice it. Even if we don't know that it's AI, there's something off about it. And that goes across all generations. So it's just something to note that without giving generative AI these powerful kind of foundational knowledge about our brand tone of voice, this is what we're doing to our consumers. So what I'm going to do is go very quickly now through how to create a great prompt before we create that that brand TOV for AI, because they go in hand. Without a great prompt, without us asking a great thing, without us setting the foundations for the thing to be created in, which is in this case our brand tone of voice, then we're going to get a mismatch again. So I wanted to give you the information of how to craft really powerful prompts. The first thing you need to be doing is defining your object clearly within your prompt. Specify the goal of your request. A clear objective helps focus the AI's output. Yeah. We need to provide context. So we're giving it the context because we're going to give it our brand tone of voice, but also give it accurate and relevant and provide it with sufficient context. It can take a lot of information at once. We need to specify the format and structure. Is it a blog post, an email campaign, social media updates? Specify this, but include structure references and preferences, such as headings. Do you need bullet points? Or else it's just going to give you the highest probable outcome, and that might not be anywhere near the vision that you have. Give it an example or a template. This helps the AI understand the style and level of detail that you're aiming for. Be precise in your language. We don't do vague now. We're going to move into these kind of precise language and detailed descriptions. Incorporate your keywords and your phrases. Always request multiple variations, 3 minimum, because what it forces it to do is actually omit a bit of that greedy coding, because it's giving you 3 options, not just 1. And also tell it if it is wrong, so then it can reinforce, it can learn, it can do better over time. One of the best things you can do is actually have a login for something like ChatGPT or Claude, because then it remembers, it kind of starts to learn over time as well. So when we're creating a powerful prompt, I don't want to see this. How effective do you think that prompt will be after me moaning for like 40 minutes about like how specific we need to be? It's not going to be great, is it? It's very generic, very high level. It has brief mentions of those kind of organic kind of things, little brand personality. Yeah, focus is broad, minimal detail. We know that this is AI generated. So that length of prompt is not going to give you anything useful out of ChatGPT, for example. So if we extend that a little bit more, write a marketing copy for a new organic tea brand, focusing on the tea's health benefits, calming effect, exotic flavors. Yeah. Aim for a friendly, welcoming tone suitable for social media ads on our website. It's going to be a bit better, isn't it? But realistically, this is the minimum length of a prompt to give ChatGPT. And this is because what I need you to really understand is this system only understands the world from the data it is understanding and the prompt that you give it. Without all of that information, you will get the highest probability answer from the same pool of information. So as you can see, your prompt is incredibly important. Yeah. And this is the output that we got here. Strong brand story, direct appeal to values, incorporates the brand name, sustainability, the ethical sourcing. It's a multi-paragraph structure. It's organized. This is useful compared to what we started off. So now we know the kind of length of the prompt and what we need to have in that prompt. When I kind of showcase the kind of like you need to give it information, you know, in this kind of section here where we were giving context and incorporating examples or kind of templates, this is where you automatically give ChatGPT the information for your brand voice. If you have a paid for kind of subscription to ChatGPT or any other kind of system, you can have a contextual folder. You can actually retain this information. If you don't, this is information that you would paste into every conversation as you build out the kind of whatever you're trying to create with generative AI. There's a lot of information in this, so I will make sure that all these prompts go out with the slides afterwards. But what we're basically doing here is I am going to walk you through the different steps and the information that you need to compile, put into a document, and then feed to ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whoever you're using on that day. So it has an understanding of what it needs to add into its probability matrix to actually create you an output that sounds and appeals to your kind of audience. Yeah. So the first thing that you need to do is I want you to create a voice snapshot. This is your tone and your personality. This section helps AI understand how your brand should feel in the writing. Yeah. You're not just listing adjectives. I don't want you to go, I'm happy, I'm a witty brand. I want more than that. And AI needs more than that. Yeah. We're painting a clear picture of the personality behind those words. So the output sounds like you, not the rest of the internet. Yeah. Because that's what we get if we don't give it this information. So we need to give it our voice adjectives. So these are 3 to 5 words that describe your brand's tone. So this is where you can list your adjectives, but that isn't all that we're going to put in here. Bold, playful, approachable, refined, those kind of words, whatever you need. I then want you to give a description. We sound like brand's personality in human terms. So insightful friend, a confident guide, a rebellious insider. if you were asking your kind of clients or your potential clients or those in your community, what are they actually going to remember you for? Our tone is this, this, and this. We aim to, what are you trying to achieve with your content? Are you trying to inform, inspire, connect, or challenge? This level of detail is going to allow you to truly tap into what generative AI can do for you. We avoid what you don't want to sound like. We don't want corporate jargon. We don't want a passive tone. We don't want overly formal language. And we aim for making our people feel understood, energized, informed. Yeah. And the reason that this is so important is it gives we're starting to build that personality. So that is the first thing I want you to create, your voice snapshot. We then need to give it writing style template. Yeah. So I want you to kind of do something like use short, punchy sentences. Keep it tight. Say more with fewer words. One idea per sentence is usually enough. Yeah. Write in an active voice. We launched a new feature, not a new feature was launched. Use contractions. Say we're instead of we are. It's instead of it is. Sounds more natural and conversational. Tell it exactly what you want. And you can, when you're using things in the don't section, you can be like, don't write in a passive voice. Enhance, really dial in on what you do want by telling it exactly what you don't want. Do not default to generic motivational phrases. I don't want to hear work smarter, not harder. I don't want to hear turn obstacles into opportunity. And yeah, we don't want that anymore, right? And also say things like, don't bury the point, avoid long lead-ins, get to the insight early and then support it. If you were training somebody to work within your team or like a personal assistant for you, what would you train them? How much level of detail would you go into for them to create these things? That is what I want you to tell generative AI. Yeah. So that is our writing style guidelines. We then want to look at our preferred language and phrasing. This section is about shaping the voice within the voice. So the actual phrases and expressions that make your brand sound distinct. These are the go-to lines, the tone kind of signals, the linguistic quirks that define your brand's personality in the everyday details. Yeah. This is gold for AI. Yeah, it prevents outputs from sounding generic. It stops us sitting within that highest probability and helps the model echo how your team really talks, how your brand really talks. It matters because phrases have a way of signaling intent and identity. The right ones make your message sound instantly familiar. The wrong ones make you sound like a stock template. Yeah. These are expressions we lean on to keep the voice grounded, human, and ours. Let's be honest. Here's the deal. Small win, big impact. We don't say things that like this. These are phrases we avoid. Innovative solutions, unlock your true potential. And give a sentence. If there's something that really bugs you in kind of written content, such as these sound like they come from a brochure or a press release, they're not from us. Tell AI that. So we need to give it our preferred language and our phrasing. We then need to give it an audience insight because AI needs to know who we're talking to. It doesn't know. It has no idea. It writes for everyone. It does the most highest probability, which usually means no one when it comes to creating content, right? And a well-defined audience insight helps the model choose the right tone, what actually comes next in the tokenization, what level of detail, and even cultural references. It's one of the most overlooked but most powerful elements in a strong prompt. Our audience is made up of mid-career marketing leaders at growth stage, B2B companies. They've been in the game for a while. They're smart, strategic, and have good instincts. They're busy, under pressure, show results fast. They don't have time for fluff, trends, or buzzwords. Yeah. We speak to them like we're talking to a peer, not a student. We assume that they know the basics and want the real stuff, no hand-holding. So we need to be including in our AI brief for this section who they are, what their role is, their seniority, those kind of things, what they care about, what are their goals, pressures, and pain points, how they like to be spoken to, what to avoid, and the clearer the picture, the sharper the AI's output will be. We then want to talk about our emotional range. So tone isn't just about what we say, it's how it feels when someone reads it. Emotional range helps AI capture the nuances behind our brand's personality. Without it, our outputs will default to extremes, too flat, too hyped, too robotic, because it cannot place us on this kind of emotional wheel, right? So this is where we're teaching AI where our brand lives on the emotional spectrum and where the lines are. So for example, this section could be we're optimistic, but we're never cheesy. We believe in possibility, but we're not wide-eyed or naive. Our positivity comes from experience, not from hype. We're confident, we're not cocky, those kind of things, yeah? And give it as much information because generative AI tends to amplify emotional language unless told otherwise. That means it might default to extreme, like we're absolutely thrilled to unveil our game-changing platform because it doesn't know that we don't get that emotional about it. We need to tell it, yeah? And then what I want you to do as the final part of your tone of voice, your AI brief, is give it some like context. Give it a way to explain to you how, you to explain to it how it needs to improve before it's even given us an output. So we're shaping the final kind of output here. So give it some examples. So if you received this, maximize your productivity with that innovative plan form, your brand would think that was generic. Tell it what is actually more on brand. Get more done with fewer tabs open. So include 2 or 3 before and after examples that show how AI should shape tone. Now collect all of that information into a Google Doc, into a PDF, into whatever you want to put it in. And then whenever you're creating content, I want you to craft a really amazing prompt with the prompts the way I told you to create a prompt and give it this foundational knowledge to set that output in. I want you to collaborate and not delegate to your AI system. Treat AI like a first draft generator, not the final voice. Use AI to help you get unstuck, explore different angles, but don't ever copy and paste the output without reviewing, shaping, and adding your perspective. AI gives you a head start, but you finish the race, yeah? So build prompts like creative briefs, like we've spoken about today. And the clearer the direction, the better the content and the more useful AI becomes, which is why we need to spend the time to create these kind of foundational documents to feed into it so you actually get an output that is truly useful. Yeah, it's not just probability-wise the most kind of optional output. And we make sure that we revise so it sounds like us and not quote unquote the internet. Yeah. Governance is also something that is incredibly important when it comes to using AI. We shouldn't just be prompting and let it kind of decide by itself. So set the voice and quality standards before we generate that content. Yeah. And then this gives it clarity up front, reduces that back and forth. Create a lightweight review tier. So not all content will require the same scrutiny. So treating every AI draft like a legal doc actually slows down your pipeline, but not everything needs legal review or CMO approval. So group content by risk level, so product pages, press release will need a full review. Low kind of risk would be social posts, but again, assign editors or approvers based on tier, not volume in this instance. And then don't create a new process for AI, build it into your systems. Yeah. So if AI work has to go through a completely different review process, slows things down again and creates confusion. So always assume that AI content needs a kind of human support at the end. And if you try and think about it, the AI can get us to like 60, 70, 80%, but then we need that human edge because it is not a replacement for experience or expertise. My last thing I will say before we kind of finish the session is that any data that you put into an AI platform is then accessible by that AI platform. So when you're creating your TOV, your brand voice TOV, make sure that you recognize that and don't be adding in any information that you're not supposed to or is NDA'd or that kind of thing, or intellectual property of your company. And as always, I invite you to join our AI Slack channel, the AI Exchange. It's totally free. And kind of join us in the kind of discussion about all of these things there. I'm just going to read this question by Laura. Oh, that's like I could do a whole session on that, Laura. Actually, ChatGPT is a good all-rounder. And the reason I say that is if you are looking to use like something for citations, you can go into the GPT add-on and get a specific citations add-on to ChatGPT. So realistically, if you're going to pay for a platform, pay for one, and I would go for ChatGPT overall. I think Sharon may have a question. Do you have a question, Sharon? Maybe not. I think you're on mute, Daniela.
Thank you, Robin.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, Matthew popped down into the chat. Thank you, Robin. That was a useful breakdown for AI and how to use it more effectively. I don't seem to see any question from Sharon, but you're more than welcome to drop in your questions. Otherwise, I'm happy to discuss a few of the links I've popped in the chats for you guys. So as I mentioned, I'm here representing the colleges. In terms of AI, the most relevant qualifications that we offer would be either the AI in Marketing Accredited Award, and that's by the CIM. So that's specifically for people who are interested in the marketing industry. Or there is now the AI practitioner qualification that we offer, and that's just more broad sweepstake coverage of a bunch of industries touching the topic, and then really deep insights and highly focused on AI. We do have Kirsty Shepherd who dropped in. Do you use Gen AI to avoid generic responses?
So generative AI is just a type of AI technology. And by giving it the right prompts and the right foundational knowledge, like the tone of voice kind of brief, the AI brief that we've created today, that's how you avoid those generic responses overall.
And then Laura Taylor has also popped into the chat. Are we going to get these slides via our email? I think there will be a recording that's sent out afterwards, but usually, typically, if you want to access the slides, you can click through to the AI is it Substack?
Yeah, it's a Slack channel.
Slack, that's it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Slack channel, and there you can access all of the material and content as well.
Yeah.
Do we get taught by Robin? Robin is one of our college tutors, yes. It would depend on the module. So that I'm aware of, you teach MarTech. Do you also teach the AI in marketing?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the AI practitioner is taught by somebody else.
Perfect. Yeah. So for the marketing sphere of AI, Robin would be one of your tutors, and then for our AI qualification that I'm aware of, I don't think it's taught by anyone because of the learning mode, or it may be because it's available via distance learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long does it take? Laura, I'm more than happy to take your credentials and then reach out to you separately and have a conversation, or just drop you this answer via email if that's okay, just because we're crossing over in terms of time. Yes, that's great. I'll be reaching out to you then. Um, Otherwise, have a lovely rest of your day, everyone, and we look forward to the next one.
Yes, absolutely. And I look forward to seeing you, Laura, on the next course.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you all for spending your time with me today.
Unable to draw it. It's okay, so I'll reach out to you and I'll also drop you a link. Bear with me one moment whilst I quickly just jot down names to help with bits, and then I will be ending the meeting.
Thank you
One
so much,
moment.
Daniela, for your time
No,
too.
not an issue at all. It's very interesting to learn and see what other people are up to, and also, yeah, there's all of these things that I can kind of apply and use in my day to day, and I 100% know what you're talking about when you can see that something reads like
Yes,
AI.
rocket emoji. I'm so
Yes,
thrilled. Like,
yes, yeah. So it's a useful tool. I really do love it. Um, but it's just finding a way how to incorporate it into your life in a way that's productive, useful, and obviously you don't sound like a chatbot.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
We can keep our personalities and they can do the
Yes.
rest.
And use it as a tool. That is exactly what
Yes,
we want.
100%. Okay, perfect. Goodbye, everyone.